Hello again. Before things get too crazy, I don't know, I feel the need to talk to you a little bit more. I gave you some advisement on how to help yourself and your community find resources and therapists and clinicians for mental health care. Now, I can tell you there are several sites in which you can find an alternative to that will still in some way be beneficial. Like some of the work I do, okay? I sit with, I listen, I allow someone to have a sounding board, give spiritual guidance and advisement, teach about astrology because I find it to be cathartic to sit down and just have your brain thinking on something else other than the chief problem or issue. If that's something you can give your brain a break from, that's one of the best ways I've come to know to use it. Also, I just find it fascinating. Everybody ain't got to, you ain't got to, but if you do, that's one of the ways you can use it. I wish there were more dedicated pages and ways to find alternatives to therapy because there are some people who can still be helped in that way. But I would say go to someone if you feel like guidance is better for you. I would advise you go to someone who is well known or come well regarded and have your best interest at heart. And the way to know that is they don't initially start telling you things about someone else is doing you harm or coming for you. They're not trying to constantly predict your future. I said what I said. They're examining your present to help you through those steps, piece by piece. Okay? I'll reiterate. Someone who's constantly giving you the answers or telling you your future, knowing, and these type of people sometimes they're skilled enough to know that telling you your future is kind of a mixed bag because you can do one thing in a butterfly effect. And if you don't know what the butterfly effect is, I mean, one little course of action can cause ripples through time and change your fate or change that outcome, even whether it's slightly or completely overtly. Push it off, change the destination, change the circumstances, all these things. And that's why it's so difficult to pin down and be predictable. Now, they might give you some advisement on what to do to make sure that specific outcome happens, but then that's only singular. It's not accounting for all the other players on the chessboard. So, this is why I would say if you're having difficulties emotionally and you want an alternative to going to therapy, the way to suss out whether or not somebody's actually there to give you advisement in a way that will be beneficial to you in that realm is that they stick to your present and help you through that so that your future can be shaped by you. Take it or leave it. Okay? I know it's fun. I do know. It's fun to consider and to delve into such things. And I'm not want to knock it because that would make me a hypocrite. But I already told you and advised you on how I operate within that. Sticking with the present, moving towards a future that you co-create with the universe and God through ordering your steps. In other words, if you want to have a solid relationship, for example, because a lot of people go to these folks for relationship advice and stuff like this. If you want that, then be that. That's the best outcome you're going to getting that. So if you say you want a solid relationship with someone who is healthy, well-adjusted, hardworking, and relatable, you have to be all those things to be a match to it, darling. Otherwise, it's going to turn out into a dumpster fire anyway. And if you want a specific person, that means that you want to control some things. And I must be the first one to tell you, you ain't in control of other people. You can't control other people. And when you try to control other people, the outcome is not assured in your favor. I'm the first one to tell you that. Is he or she coming back to me? Probably not. And why do you want someone who rejected you or abandoned you? Why do you want them to come back? I'm the first one to tell you. Why do you want them to come back? Let's work on figuring out if you can be a good candidate for therapy, because I don't think anybody isn't a good candidate for therapy. But let's see if we can figure out how you can get in alignment with you and love you a little bit more, so you ain't got to worry about whether or not that specific person is coming back, and you let go of that control and release that lack of self-love. Love yourself a little better, so that if at any point in time you have a circumstance in which you have a good partnership with someone potentially, you can be a good partner to yourself and to them. See, that part. So if they ain't doing that, then I get my cosign stamp. Not that it matters all that much, but I'm just telling you from a perspective of someone who actually want good outcomes for those who listen to me. Okay? I think one of the most egregious things about me saying that is that I have to say it. I feel like he's one of those people who are able to tap in. We also must be responsible in some way for how we do that. Now that's shadow and light and everything. That's what brings it balance and helps us understand one from the other. So some of that, I suppose, is needed. I think one of the things that hurt my feelings one day, like hurt me to the point where I didn't even expect it to hurt that much. When I was there's another counseling story, but from a perspective of also spirituality and divination, things like this. So I was already doing this kind of work. I had been doing this kind of work off and on since I was 18 years old. I just got better at it. And so one of the many reasons, not the biggest, one of the many reasons why I delved into counseling and psychology is because I saw that there's a succinct way to help people align with themselves. And it's publicly known. It's not something that isn't in some way governed. And I'm like, okay, this is how people can get better help. In the meantime, I'm going to do this, but this is how I can help better. Or if there's any other alternative, I'll find that along the way as well. But one of them cases that I had to defend myself with was them assuming that I was providing counseling services. I don't know, because maybe my clients and my students were getting better. I don't know what brought them this or what made them think this. I didn't told y'all before. I'm a rule follower, not because it's a mark of pride for me. I think even if we don't agree with the rules, we must still follow them. Okay? And because I think free will is absolute, that means that we all come to an agreement on what we do and do not want. The majority of us rules. As it pertains to that, we would have complete disorder if there was no rules and no structure. And in order for me to believe that, I must also embody that. So them assuming I was breaking the rules had me up in that just furious. And I was that type of angry that I was in tears. It's like I literally am following the rules against my better judgment, because I know I'm great at my job, but I'm also great at this. The most you're going to get out of anybody is that I've sent them to someone, or that I've helped them through some times of grief and struggle and challenges, but through this way. And they just assumed. And I'm like, why would you assume? Because I don't know, I guess they thought the worst of me. I don't know. And I gave them no reason to think this other than just being my beautiful little self. But then again, I wasn't always agreeable to those who were disagreeable with me. And walking without fear sometimes intimidates folks and makes them want to attack you. That's the only thing I came up with. There are some other things, but I'll be digressing too damn much to get into it. So I finally revealed that I had been reading and that I had been providing spiritual guidance, but not clinical counseling. That's two different animals, even though the outcome are similar. If you do it in a way that is in alignment with actually wanting to help somebody and not make them codependent on you, and that's what I'm talking about. Not going to someone who is telling you things to make you and cause you to be codependent. At some point, they should be offering you different types of modalities to aid and assist you, and that includes counseling, and telling you the difference between what they're doing and counseling is. They should also give you tools to use on your own, be a listening board for you, not contributing and adding to your misery by giving you false hope and putting ideas in your mind so that you can make someone else your enemy. Or this person's plotting on you, this person's scheming on you, this person's talking about you. Why do you care? If you're in alignment with yourself, or you're working on being in alignment with yourself, and that means loving yourself and treating yourself better, why do you care what anybody else is doing? And if somebody's plotting on you, child, put the armor of your own God on you. And even if you are not a religious person, if you walk in alignment and mind your business for the most part, and not somebody else's, you'll do all right. Life ain't gonna be perfect, because I will never promise you that. There's no such thing anyway. But I will tell you this: ain't nobody, and I do mean nobody, who actually intends on helping you through something is going to give you additional things to worry about in a reading or anything like that. It's going to overtly give you additional things to worry about consistently and constantly. And even if there's something that they may understand and know and want to share with you, what they're going to do additionally, if they're going to share something with you, is give you advisement on how to work through that for yourself without causing additional strife and malice within your reality. Therein lies the difference. Take it or leave it. Now, what I have to say additionally to my friends, and I'm going to call them friends, even if they don't consider me a friend. I'm not sure. I would never know. That are aware and awake. We're at a precipice of being out of time for some things. And I don't know if you can tell, but the pressure behind my eyes is showing itself lately. And the lack of sleep. I'm sleeping more than I used to, because I've released control over the outcome at this point. I've accepted some outcomes, and that's been a journey of its own for me, is accepting outcomes, even if I don't like them. Okay? But there are things afoot that were put in motion that cannot be undone. And not for lack of trying, I suppose. But I would say, if you had a countdown clock, I would put it at around mid-November, something like that, where it's going to be obvious we're shifting to another cycle. And I don't mean to talk over anybody's head when I say these things. That simply just means that if we, say for instance, we call things seasons, right? We have hurricane season. It means it's a season of time in which hurricanes are likely to occur. Why am I not being able to say that word properly? I don't know. Occur. Cycles are like that. We cycle through, and then there's another cycle. And it can be similar things or new things that create a wave of energy that then creates something else until it cycles itself out. No different than a washing machine cycle. It's going to rinse, wash, spin. And then when the time's up, it'll stop. Cycles are like that, at least in my mind, like a washing machine. It don't always wash things, in my opinion, even though it tries, I think. But this cycle that's just begun, even if I'm the only one who thinks so, I really do think back in 2019, 2020, all the way up into 2023, I think that was mercy to show us the mirror There is nothing uncovered, not uncovered, as it pertains to corruption, as it pertains to the fallacies in thought, as it pertains to how we treat each other, how we view each other, how we take care of the land, our criminal justice system. Nothing, I don't mean nothing, is not seen at this time, in my subjective opinion, because I can't quantify that at this time. But I will take a little bit of leeway and say most people can see that it's very hard pressed to find something that isn't in some way corrupt. Any institutions that's not corrupt in some way. And that's part of the stress. It's like, as much as I believe in people going to get the therapeutic help they need, because I think that's the best we got, there are people within those systems that are not corrupt, that are helpers, true helpers, and not just in it to tell somebody that they're a therapist or a social worker. They're in it because they actually want to help. They're still not jaded. So jaded that they don't think they're nothing more than a very flimsy Band-Aid. They actually do care and want to help. Those people exist. I know this. Okay? And some of them I don't even like. But they're great at the jobs. If they're great at the jobs, though, I'm going to send you to them if you're in the area. So that's all that matters to me. But I will say this. We work hard because we expect certain outcomes. If we work hard enough, we'll have a specific outcome. No different than the concept and idea of the American dream. The unfortunate part is if you work hard, whatever you're working hard on, there's no guarantee of success. Because of all the things I just said. The levels of corruption in almost every single institution known to man. Something got to be sacred. I hope we, as a collective, can create something sacred. You might say, well, we have religious bodies of the different faiths that could be sacred. It could be. But look at what's been going on in the last year and a half. Somebody or somebody's somewhere has been uncovering how those people are not always what they seem. In order for someone to have faith in an institution, we have to have at least the leaders not be corrupt in some way. There's some above reproach. And that's a hard thing to do. Being above reproach is a hard thing to do. But nobody said being a leader and being on top is easy. But if you want to sit in a king or a queen's chair, you must behave as such. That means that walking how you talking. Do what you say you're going to do. And don't change that. As soon as you walk out of the door of a building that you have a seat or a throne on. Be there all the time. And nobody says we have to play respectability politics, because I think that's a fallacy too. That's what get folks in a lot of trouble, pretending like they don't have fun from time to time. And having fun don't mean you causing harm to somebody while you're having your fun. You have fun on your own terms without causing harm to somebody else. Okay, you can go ahead and do that if you sit on somebody's throne somewhere. When I say sit on somebody's throne somewhere, I mean that you're in charge of an institution or leadership somewhere or a religious body, something like this. You sit on a throne somewhere, you behave as such all the time. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm not trying to walk around with bodyguards. And I'm trying to live well. But I don't require wealth. I don't require it. Now, if I have it, I'm not going to say I turn it away, but I'm not going to acquire it through the means that I've seen some inquiry through. And the judgment is based on, is that safe? Is that a good look? Is that trustworthy? Is that honest? Because let me tell you something. Maybe it was before. And I've told y'all here, those have been with me for a while, I told you before, the ages and the eras are shifting at this time. If you believe in such things, if you don't, just listen to me. It's very Capricorn. And that era is ending. It's ending here shortly. It was the last bit before we go into the Aquarian era/age. Eras are shorter than ages. Eras, a couple hundred years. Ages, a couple thousand years. Okay? And we have boom, 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 boom. We go through. And if you see the identifying traits within certain eras, you'll see that it matches with that timeline, if you would be so indulging to do so. We're not doing that anymore, I don't think. Glorifying money and things over people is coming to an end. And whenever something comes to an end of an era, people don't always like it, because especially if they was comfortable in the previous concepts and identities regarding money and business in this case. Getting the bag is not the most important thing in the world. Getting the bag is for resources and resources alone. But then again, even getting the bag is problematic, even in that way, because the things that we actually do need, and excuse me if y'all see me messing with this crown, because if I put it all up in here, it starts to pop out all different ways, or it starts to itch because it's packed in there. It's a problem. So I just have to have a little bit of it out. Plus, I have a big forehead. Anyway, and I still haven't gotten around to braiding this out. Anyway, I'm saying this to you so that hopefully you can understand what's moving forward, what's occurring right now and moving forward are things that are a part of the wash cycle. And this new cycle, there's some challenging things coming down the pipeline. You ain't got to get ready if you stay ready, if you know what I mean. Now, my children, and when I say my children, I mean my born, given children, and the children that I've lovingly adopted in some kind of way, they know to stay ready. Whether they listen to that or not, I don't know. That's their business. Most of them grown. But if you get ready, you ain't got to stay ready. And this is at the time where you need to. You might need to. I don't like giving messages that have a fear-based components to it, because it's not what it's about. It's just about being ready. It's like I always have at least 1 or 2 notebooks available and handy to me, just in case somebody new come through here and I gotta write down the information real quick so I can make them a file or a folder. And I'm really bad about that, y'all. Or if I need to make notes on something that I want to speak on later. Because a lot of times when I'm talking to people, something pop in my mind right in the middle of a conversation or a question that is being asked to me. And I can't at that time stop and go do a video or stop and write some things down, because I am engaging with that person. So as soon as I hang up, I go ahead and write it down in a notebook, because I have one handy. I always have a pen. Always have a pen. Always have a notebook. And now I can sometimes go up to a week without even using it, but it's just there. And I have a separate notebook for other things. But it's there for my usage if I should be so inclined. So if there are things that you would need in your daily life, given any kind of circumstance, have that put to the side for you and yours. And you ain't got to worry about it. Okay? Now, there are some things that I think that are just common sense stuff. And that means if you have a community of people that you trust, And when I say community, it could be people close by or far away. There are people you trust, know and trust and love, and they love you back and know and trust you. Then it's prudent that we have something called a phone tree. Now, phone trees came in handy during previous hurricanes. I can't remember which one it was, but there was one when I was still an ombudsman for the Coast Guard where I created a phone tree like in the nick of time. Power went out, so charging your phone was very, very difficult, and some people were sleeping in their cars so they can get some AC to sleep at night. That means that your battery is drained. You're not trying to charge your phone and your car necessarily, okay? So there might be situations, if there were a situation where you can't necessarily charge your phone, but somebody else got a charge, but you ain't got your contacts on you because your phone dead. It would behoove you to have a book with all the contacts of people that you know you want to reach out to and share with. Hand it to you, written down somewhere, easily accessible. And I would imagine that it would be a great idea to have that handy near the area in which you're staying ready at. Yeah. And then just leave it there. If you have a space, you can just clear out a little space and have that little space for that's my ready area. Ain't nobody can tell me, and that I know of, outside of maybe save a few, knew what was going to happen during COVID. Knew COVID was going to go down and how that was. Nobody could tell me they knew explicitly, save for a few. Or they had some idea in England that there was trouble in the waters. And stuff like that makes life interesting, but unpredictable to most. Considering these things and considering what we're seeing, considering the hurricanes and things like this, we haven't solved climate issues. We haven't solved those. There are multitudes of different types of conflicts around the world that can bleed out and spill out at any time. And again, this is not me fear-basing you. This is not me telling you to be afraid. This is me telling you not to be. If you feel, I think it would comfort you to be ready and not worry about it. Honestly, I really do. Be ready and not worry about it. And have your community of people that you're like, okay, we have a plan. Having a plan. Should things go awry, what are we going to do? That gives you peace of mind. That I recommend highly. Okay? Now, between time, if you haven't watched the previous video on how to get to a point where you're finding good helpers in your community that are clinicians, it's in a previous video before this one. Okay? But I'll go back to those who are aware and awake. If you ain't get the memo by now, I'm here. Consider this your sign. The cycle has begun. And no different than if you wash your clothes and they still smell a little funky. You're going to go in and throw them back in there. Or if you dry your clothes, tumble dry your clothes, and they still a little wet, a little damp, you go ahead and throw them back in there, see if we can do something else. No different. But I also think, and this is subjective, that this time to do something else it's like an elevation. The stakes are a little bit higher. Because, truth be told, there's a lot of things that have not been solved or resolved or balanced out up until now that need to be. Even if you're not waxing philosophically about what I just said, you're a student of math or stats, you can throw them stats out there to pretty much anything that's going on right now that looks like it's about to hit a crescendo. And you'll see it. Numbers work, child. Numbers work sometimes better and more efficiently than sitting and receiving information just through your intuition. Okay? You can fact check it with numbers. That's how I used to get out of those cycles, and even in my own psyche of thinking, okay, no, there ain't no way I could know that's gonna happen. That's wild. That's crazy. And I would sit down with numbers and see, oh yeah, that is most likely to happen, most probable to happen. And so I'm thinking probabilities help out a lot. If you in any way doubtful of this message, probabilities. Those of you who are good at such things. It's not even about if anymore, in my opinion. It's about when. I know you ain't. I just gotta feel like, how dare you? In my mind, sometimes I just prejudge myself, or maybe I'm just feeling that from someone. But listen, Cookie. I enjoy comfort. I enjoy relaxation. I enjoy peace of mind. I am not thrilled about the probabilities I see or understand at this time. My hope is that I'm wrong. But in case I'm not, I feel it's prudent to say something. You got about a week and a half, 3 weeks before all this become evident in my assessment, whether I'm right or wrong. And then after that, it is what it is. Either we successfully push some things off, we iron some things out, balance some things out, or we don't. This is a definite, I know everybody tired of hearing this. This is a definite work together. Don't we in together? Because we literally are. They say some people ain't in it together. And I get that because I felt that same vibe when celebrities used to say that during COVID. We're all in this together. No, in your mansion. I'm not judging your success necessarily, but let's be real. Some people ain't in it with you in the same way. You ain't in the same boat as everybody else. Some people out here suffering. And loneliness, even though it sucks sometimes, is not the highest form of suffering. And people so stressed out they don't even know how to be lonely because they're just trying to figure out what their next meal or next shelter is going to come from. That kind of stuff. But in the way that I understand it, we all will be, there will be nobody that is spared some portion of what I feel is to come. And it's because just like there's a beach. Y'all know I like talking in metaphors and giving little stories just to bring the point home. So go ahead and bear with me on this side street. This time I'm giving you a warning. There's a beach called Pontchartrain. It's underwater now. But there was another beach called Lincoln Beach. And it's same type of waters, not far from each other, equidistant between residential areas. Lincoln Beach was a little bit harder to access, but it's actually not a side street. First time I drowned was at Lincoln Beach. Yeah, I'm still here talking to you. I don't know how. It just happened. I'll tell you the story about that after I finish telling you what the point was. How about that? Okay. So, we were warned, well, the grown folks back then were warned that if they don't do something about climate change and coastal erosion, that those beaches will no longer be a thing to enjoy. Pontchartrain and Lincoln. My family used to go there on weekends. It used to be on Pontchartrain, and a lot of people don't know there was a long flight of stairs, long, that go down to the beach. It was like a shelf, and then stairs that went down to the beach at the bottom. And the beach was very swimmable. You can get in there and play. There's another one. They used to be like in Biloxi used to have a pretty decent beach. Between the trash, the sewage, and the coastal erosion, the beach is still there in Biloxi, but you can't get in the waters. You could get in them waters if you want to look like one of them fish from Simpsons show. At least in my opinion. Them things are so polluted. Child, I don't even want to smell the water. That's how polluted it is. But if you do enough stuff and you don't take enough action in certain ways, things happen, and it's sometimes permanent. It changes things forever. A beach I used to go to when I was just a child is no longer there. 2 of them are no longer there because we did nothing about coastal erosion or pollution. We could figure out a way to bring the beaches back, I suppose, but ain't nobody done it. So we have the bodies of water to stand by, but that's about it. And I don't even think you can access Lincoln Beach anymore at all. Like Pontchartrain, the lakefront, you can go and sit by the water, but ain't nobody swimming in that. ain't nobody swimming in that. It is impossible. Now there are sailboats and people out there fishing and whatnot, but it's no longer a beach for swimmers. And it used to be quite lovely. Hell, they used to have carnival rides. Like it used to be like Coney Island, but better back then. I think it's one of the reasons why we had the World's Fair here in the 80s. But I digress. Actually, I'm demonstrating to you that there's some things if we don't do nothing about it and we just keep letting things be, it's just going to reshape things in a way that we might not find pleasant. Or we might lose or miss out on something that was special and precious because we didn't appreciate enough. Those are the things. Those are the type of energies that are at work at this time. And it's not just mental, even though I do press the button real hard, boom, on mental health care, spiritual guidance, things of these natures. I do press the button hard because I think getting your minds right is the best pathway forward. Because if your minds ain't right, you ain't doing nothing fruitful anyway. There's still a little bit of hope inside of me. Regardless of what the facts say, and the figures say, and the numbers say, and my intuition says, I'm real stubborn about hope. Stubborn about it. And I'm cool with being stubborn about hope. Because hope gives me a reason to laugh, love, live. As cliche as that sounds. Hope gives me a pathway forward to that. Like I wake up with hope. I wake up with the concept that something good is going to happen in my day. And if nothing different happens than yesterday, it's still a good day. And Charlotte, there are days I have not woke up like that. So I'm grateful to have an average day sometimes. Being frank. Now I promised y'all a story, so I'm going to give you one story time. I don't know if I've ever said this before on here. I think I have. I can't remember. I was at Lincoln Beach with my aunt, who's dearly departed recently. My aunt Cynthia. And she and her boyfriend at the time brought me, my siblings, and her 2 children, my cousins, to Lincoln Beach, plus a couple neighbors. And she was wading in the water kind of far out, and I wanted to do my own thing. My sister didn't really want to get in the water. She was just standing on the beach. Well, I got into a riptide, plus there was like, I don't know what to call it, the sediment, when it gets kind of sludgy. This is right when it's really just started. The pollution is really starting to affect the ground floor of the beach, under the water. So it felt like I, I don't want to be graphic to you, but this is the only way I can describe it. Like what a cesspool looks and feels like, it kind of felt like that underneath my feet. Plus, I was in a riptide, so there was no way to get my footing or try to swim sideways. And I wasn't a strong swimmer. I barely knew how to swim at this time. I don't know why they left me alone. I was about 9 or 10 years old. I think I was 9. And I realized I was drowning, but I'd only ever seen or known about drowning on TV shows and movies. So I'm like, okay, this is impossible. Ain't no way nobody sees me over here struggling. In my mind, I'm thinking, and I'm waving at my sister at the beach saying help. And she's like, hey, I see you. She thinks I'm just waving to say hello. And I'm actively drowning. I go under because I couldn't fight no more. And I look up and see kind of the sun sparkling through the water, and that was kind of it. Things went black. Then suddenly I felt boom, like a sonic boom. I don't even know how to describe it to you. And I hear my aunt Cynthia in my ear screaming my name, and she yanks me out of the water, and I took a breath, and that hurt so bad. Water came up and my chest burned. It burned all the way underneath my armpits. It hurt so bad. I can't remember the last time I burned like that. It's like even when I was in Alaska, every now and again. And that burn to this day reminds me of that. And some people, if you didn't know, now you know why I don't smoke. Like, why don't you smoke marijuana? I don't really enjoy that. I don't enjoy that burn. It triggers that memory, and I don't really super love that memory. I just never tell nobody why I don't like that burn. I don't always refuse if I'm in a situation in which I can do that comfortably and legally. But yeah, no, I prefer edibles. I'm not trying to smoke it. I'm not trying to smoke that, and it's very rare that I do that anyway. I don't like the feeling. On top of the fact that it triggers memories and me stable and my emotional and my mental is important to me, and I don't always super love that. It makes me let go so much that things start flooding in that I am not in the mood to receive. So that might be for other folks, but ain't always for me. Okay, but yeah, that was pretty bad. Like, I was so confused when it was all over. And I told my sister what happened. She's like, there's no way. It's like, yep, that's exactly what happened. And I was so irritated at that point that I sat on the beach for a while, just stared out. Not necessarily irritated. I would say confused, but annoyed. Like, why was that even possible? Not that I was blaming any adults or any of my siblings or cousins or anything like that. I was just mad that it happened in the first place, and I can't explain to you why. In waking up from that, in my fully becoming aware, because I was confused for a moment. But that was a very jarring experience, to say the least. So I gave you a story that I promised. This video is mostly about, I can't possibly tell you that with the billions of people around the world and the billion with a B that's in this continent alone, I'm not hearing my voice. Hell, most of the people who are watching me are people who have seen me, who know me, things like this. And that's not a lot of people. So y'all go ahead and share things. You ain't got to attribute to me. Just share things that you feel that can be useful to your community. But I'm telling you these things because, listen, like yesterday, when I was saying people are going to be a little bit more raw emotionally over the next 3 to 6 months. The most probable thing that's going to happen with the collective energy is that people are going to be more apt to speak and say things that are emotionally vexing to them. Speak it. But not everybody's stable emotionally. Not everybody's stable financially. Okay? So when you have a powder keg and you have people who are unstable emotionally and financially and mentally, what can happen is that spreads to everybody around them. And if I'm saying this to you, that means that not to cut yourself off from your community, cut yourself off from folks. No, that's not what I'm saying. Because we all need somebody. We need human companionships to even thrive. Okay, that's why sometimes when people say you're codependent on others, I'm like, we're all supposed to be codependent on each other in some way. The level to which you're a codependent will dictate whether it's maladaptive or not. Okay? If you can't never sit alone with yourself without losing your crap, then maybe you have maladaptive codependency issues. But if you get lonely sometimes and seek out companionship, that does not make you codependent. There's a difference. Okay? Because we're not meant to be solitary creatures. So I'm not saying cut people off, but I'll say if you see something like that, or you have some tips and tools in your tool belt now, hopefully, that I've given you to aid and assist them in some way. If barring those working, you might have to keep your distance from some folk a little bit, or be less enmeshed in what's going on with them, because that splashback, no different than putting some cold frozen fries in the hot grease, it might pop on you. Or, and I love, if you can't get away from this because you're a captive audience, like y'all roommates, y'all live together, y'all close family members, y'all are enmeshed in each other's lives in such a way, or a spouse or a partner, that you can't get away, disengage as much as possible. Gray rock them as much as possible. If you don't know what gray rock means, that's simply put, when you realize the argument's going nowhere but in circles, and there's no common ground because the other person doesn't want to give you common ground because they just dare to argue because they feel in some type of way, you just happen to be an avatar for their projection, you're going to be silent and still. Go inside your mind and go to a happy place or something. Still engage if you feel you need to, but if it's not a need, honey, be stoic. As stoic as you can. And then when you think that you have it out, go find something else to do with your time. You don't have to engage. Keep yourself solid. Maybe you're going to be the only solid person in your community because you decide that you want to be in alignment with loving yourself and balance, but you're also not going to exhaust yourself spinning your wheels in circles with stressful things that are unnecessary stressful conversations and arguments. It is not needed. Okay? And I hope that's helpful. I might be back here later. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, you're loved.